Oh, she's gonna fix the TV. Okay. First, let me give everybody some good news. Yesterday, I got to see a picture of my grandfather. He was in the 30s or something. I was told I met him once when I was a baby, and I've never seen him since. So now I know where I got my good looks from.
Oh my God!
Because in that picture, there's a man sitting in the middle, holding a cup of coffee, in a dark jacket. And if you look at me now, and look at that picture, if you look at my hair, it's curly and everything like his is. He wears a different type of hat, but like me, he wears a hat, and he wears clothes like I wear sometimes. And I'm wearing the clothes today. I'm wearing a sweatshirt and some tie-dye pants. Why? Probably because of the video I'm doing, Sequitor. What actually is it? What actually is going on in Congress, Washington, D.C., the president? Supreme Court just sit on the side watching. What actually is going on is both the president and Congress knows we got to cut the budget. And no matter what's going to get cut, somebody's going to be very, very unhappy. So, a couple years ago, Congress passed this bill to cut a whole bunch of stuff. They sat down, come up with a bunch, and called it Sequitor. It will go into effect here. And then they postponed it and postponed it and postponed it until almost everybody who was in Congress that originally got the bill isn't there no more. And no one could be blamed for it. That's the key. No one could be blamed for it. There's not a single congressman, senator, or leader, president in this country that will get up and stand there and tell you, we need these cuts. We need to start somewhere. I mean, we could reverse some later down the road, but we need to start somewhere. We can't continue spending like there's no end to the Americans' money. It's your money. These cuts have to happen. So by letting the Sequitor happen, look at what happened this morning. It's now in effect. And Obama's blaming the Republicans. It's going to be felt. It's going to hurt everybody, and it's the Republicans' fault. And Democrats say, oh, it's going to be terrible for all these social programs that are going to get lost. And it's the Republicans' fault. And the Republicans are saying that there was no leadership provided. We had given in by tax increase, by tax, and all the president wants is more tax increase. It's the president's fault. And the Democrats in the Senate, they wouldn't come up with any plans. It's their fault. So as you see right now, we got some massive budget cuts, about 5%, which is a good start. And it's nobody's fault. The Democrats could say it's the Republicans, and the Republicans could say it's the Democrats. And that's what happened. And they're going to say that because they truly believe the United States people are going to accept that. When the truth is, what we need is for somebody to get up and say, look, this is going to hurt everybody. Everybody's going to feel it. But it's something we got to do. You, the American people, is not an unlimited pool of money that can be spent over and over and over again. We at the federal government have to stop spending. We're not a socialist nation. We're not a full democracy. We are not a dictatorship. We are not a monarchy. We are a republic. And anything and everything Congress does is paid for out of the pockets of the American citizen. And we got to put a stop to this freewheel spending. And this is our first step. Is everything going to be perfect? No. I'm sure there are some things later on we're going to say, well, we're going to have to go back and put some there and move around here and there. but it's a beginning. Now they could take next year maybe 1 or 2% down and keep decreasing till we get it down to where it's manageable. But it had to start sometime. The only problem we have with it is we do not have a single leader in Washington, D.C., and I can prove that because not a single person got up and said, we got to cut our budget. It's not going to be liked by everybody. It's probably not going to be, it's going to be disliked by everybody because something everybody's going to lose. But we got to turn around the freewheel spending of this government. We got to start shrinking it down in size. That means maybe contracts are not going to get done. Maybe people are going to get laid off. Maybe programs won't happen. But it has to be done. Because the American people cannot afford the United States Cadillac Rolls Royce of a government. So we have to do this. There's no one in Congress, no one in the Senate, and no one in the White House that had enough gumption to stand up in front of the American people and say what needed to be done. So they fixed it so that they can deny everything and let nobody hold the bag. I think that's wrong. A little leadership. Someone getting up there and saying, I don't like it any better than you do, but we got to do it. It needs to be done. Unfortunately, it's not what we want, but we can't have our cake and eat it too. If we want to reduce government, we got to reduce government. If we want to cut spending, we got to lay off people. If we want to get Congress's budget under control, programs have to go away. Now you may say, JD, you keep talking about Medicare and Social Security being untouchable because that is an insurance contract. The government collects more money from the American people strictly for those programs. The problem is the program's not running out of money. Congress has been stealing it. Or another word that very aptly describes what Congress did with the funds of Social Security and Medicaid: embezzlement. Social Security is designed, and Medicaid, for the people who put into it, not for the people who don't. That's what welfare is for. But they were moving the people from welfare over to the Social Security, things like SSI and things, because it had money. Welfare don't. It collects money every single one of your paydays. Welfare don't. Welfare gets their money out of the budget. Social Security and Medicaid gets their money, Medicare gets their money out of your paycheck every time you get one. That's why they're not on the cutting block anymore, because they're not an entitlement. Something that's an insurance agreement between you and the government. Just like your medical insurance that's taken out of your paycheck, just like your 401k program. Yep, that's what it is. Let me tell you. And there's nothing else you can do about that. And Sequitor. I know my pronunciation is terrible sometimes, but it's plain and simple. No one in our government has the gumption to be a leader. That's what Sequitor is all about. They're all afraid to stand up and say, this is the first of our cuts. See how it goes. We have to do it, and nobody's going to like any of it. I don't think there's going to be a single person that's going to like the whole program from end to end in this country. All your special interest groups are going to hate it. All your liberals are going to hate it. All your conservatives are going to hate it. All your eagles, hawks are going to hate it. All your pacifists are going to hate it. Everybody's going to hate it because something comes out of everybody's program. So, and not a single person in our government has the gumption to get up and say, sorry people, we need to do this. If we want to reduce our government, we need to cut our budget. They're cowards. They're not leaders. Now, what would JD have done? I wouldn't go around the country and tell Sequitor how this is going to happen, this is going to happen to you, and it's the other guy's fault. I would tell you, you want the budget cut. You don't want us to take more money out of your paycheck, then this has to be done. Some people in the government are going to lose jobs. Some contracts are going to go away. Some special programs are going to disappear. None of those programs run for free, but that's what increases the budget. That's what has to be decreased. You know, it's like you at home. You talk about when your mother or your grandmother electric bill would come in and be like $12, $15 a month. And here you are looking at $200 a month electric bill. Well, you want to get it down to $12, $15. Well, if you actually look at all the electrical appliances you use, if you take everything out that your grandfather didn't have at that $12, $15 a month, you'd probably have a $12, $15 a month electric bill too. Get rid of your TVs, get rid of your computers, get rid of your microwaves, get rid of your electric stoves, get rid of all those things, put in a coal burning stove. Maybe you had lamps. Maybe you didn't even have lights. You know? Think about that. If you got rid of everything that you call a convenience, you would cut your budget. Now, if you have to cut your budget down to get your electric bill to where you could pay it, you might have to get rid of the big screen TV and put in a smaller TV. You might have to remove maybe the toaster oven to keep the microwave. You might have to get rid of down to one computer instead of 3, 4. You might even go down to one TV in the house instead of one in every room. You might have to go in and out of rooms and learn how to shut off and turn on lights instead of leaving them on all day and all night. You see? That's basically what's happening. Think about that with you people who have multiple TVs. If you had to cut your electric bill and go down to 2 TVs, only 2 TVs in your house, and that's it. You take them out of all your kids' rooms. You think they'd be happy? Take them out of your bedroom. You only have 2 TVs, one in the den and one in the living room. Or if you have to want one in your bedroom, you put one in your bedroom and one in the den, and that's it. That will reduce your electric bill greatly. But everybody else is not going to like it. You see what I'm saying? That's what Sequitor is. It's taking away from everybody something to bring our budget down. It's the first step. And that's the worst part, people. You got to understand, it's the first step. It's not even all of it. There's more reductions that need to follow. But there's not a single person in Congress that was brave enough to stand up in front of the American people and say, we need to do this. If we are to reduce our budget, we need to start reducing it now. We have to take the hits. We have to do the job. We need it. That's why there's no leadership in Washington. It takes guts and a true belief to lead. This is JD. And remember, if I was president, I would have told you why we need to do it. Not cry about whose fault is this or whose fault is that. Might even have been larger. Who knows? The truth is, though, it needs to be done, and I would have told you the truth. Not come up with a blame and pointing. That's a coward's way. That's not a leader. That's far from it. Think about that when you're thinking about JD. Some of you have heard some things on Facebook that I went through with my family, and it's not very nice and it wasn't very pretty. But that's the way my first family was. It was a total wreck, to put it mildly. And I'm the big bad villain in the whole thing. And truthfully, all documentation points otherwise, but who cares? The bottom line is, you're going to get the truth out of me. Not politeness, not a bull story, not a bunch of crap. You're going to get why we're doing something and what we are doing. And whether or not we're going to like it or not. I know it's tough. I know some of those programs that you have grown accustomed to enjoy. But sometimes we have to sacrifice. It's cutting back. And that's what it's all about. It's just we don't have a leader in Washington, D.C. to stand forward, stand up strong, and say it. Thank you. This is JD. Remember, 2016. It's up to you whether or not I run then. Not me no more. 2008, I did fantastic, and I kept my promise for 2012. Now it's all in your hands. Whether or not I run as presidential candidate in 2016. Thank you. This is JD. Just remember this. If you get me as a president, you better be ready to have a leader, and you better be ready to hear the truth. No political correctness, no politeness, straightforward truth. And that's all I'm going to give you, because that's all I'm capable of doing, whether we like it or not. Sequential had to be done. It has to be started. We have to begin somewhere. It can be corrected down the road as needed, but it has to start, and now is as good a time as any. Thank you. This is JD.